Sexual preference is one of the most controversial topics apart from God, ranging in many different questions. What makes a person homosexual? Is it a mental abnormality? Should it be banned or legal? And is it dangerous? And these are questions that we're going to try to answer today. Now, you may ask, how is it that a straight male can talk about something like homosexuality? It's not as though you would have any idea what you're talking about. And this may very well be true. However, homosexuality is not something that only affects the homosexuals. So without any further ado, let's begin. First, we have to figure out what homosexuality is. The definition of homosexuality is of a person sexually attracted to people of one's own sex. Now, I'm sure this isn't a new discovery to you. Unless you've been proactively avoiding the media since the mid-70s, homosexuality has been a big topic of interest in all media alike, and homosexuality has been around far before even that, which historically is accurate regardless of the historia you follow. However, you will notice a significant difference in attitude towards homosexuality depending on the book you read. As I'm sure we're all very familiar, the Bible labels these people as unclean, and their acts of homosexuality will lead to their eternal torture. And yet, if you read of King Arthur, you'll come to find that he was sexually active with quite a few men, even fell in love with one, and this was not only acceptable, but even religious leaders use King Arthur as an example of greatness. So why is it that a horrible stigma of homosexuality was not brought upon him? Well, it depends on the religion. Many people will deny that Arthur was ever sexually active with other men at all, but this is neither here nor there. The point is, this is not a new concept. So what makes a person attracted to the opposite sex? What makes someone decide one day that they like the body they see in the mirror? And is it even a decision at all? Well, when you research homosexuality and the cause, you may come to a disappointing discovery. See, nowhere will you find an article discussing the scientific aspect of this, and let me explain why this is important. When it comes to biology, a male and a female of any species produce children. We're biologically compatible this way. However, a male and a male cannot naturally conceive children, the same way no two females can naturally conceive. Imagine a group of wolves. Imagine all males became infatuated with each other, and the same with the females. No pups would ever be born from then on, and this would inevitably cause the death of the species. If you think of this way, you may classify this action as a disease or mental abnormality. However, there are animals that do copulate with the same sex for pleasure. However, animals do not pick life partners of the same sex, or if they do, it's very rare, and again, they can never produce offspring. But what does this mean? Well, when it comes to humans, we are animals as well, so studying other animals and how they behave can help us learn more about ourselves. However, this is one thing not common in the animal kingdom, which is why it's so confusing and why it really irks me that there's not much scientific study on this. So what are my thoughts on it then? Well, being as how we're the top of the food chain, we aren't a species who needs to be afraid of dying out. If you go back to the wolf example, I set it up in such a way that it was a small pack that ended up going extinct because of the unusual sexual preference that they took. But imagine if there were billions of these wolves, and imagine if only half of them were homosexual. That species would still thrive, for there is nothing hindering their growth. Similarly, this could be an evolutionary step. As strange as that may sound, we as humans understand that there's only so much planet for us, and yet we all want to find love. One way of finding love and not worrying about overpopulation is a sudden transformation in sexual preference. This is just my theory, but it's all I got, being as how if you look this up, you'll get crap like nature, biology, they were born that way, why are some people straight, same thing that caused people to be straight, and these are uninformed, emotionally attached answers, and I'm annoyed to no end that society can shove things so far down our throats that even scientific research is hindered. If I were gay, I'd want to know why. I'd want to know why I like other men. Why is it I feel emotionally connected to my own gender? Why would someone in their right mind want to be homosexual? Really think about it, and let me give you an example. Let's say I'm the first homosexual to come out and admit that I'm openly attracted to other men. All of a sudden, I'm getting beat up and ridiculed and criticized. People are calling me repulsive names and threatening to end my life if I don't convert myself. Think about this for a second. If homosexuality is a choice, why would anyone pick that life? That's why it doesn't make sense. However, we can't be sure that it's something you're born with either, as there's no evidence for that. There are a ton of examples of people saying that they knew from the moment they started school. And then there are some people who say it took them 30 years. There are even others who contradict the entire spectrum and say that they chose to be homosexual because it was their last hope of finding someone. And regardless to when or how, it doesn't answer the question, why? And until we put an end to our hateful, aggressive attitudes and put an end to our pretentious born that way ideas, we can actually figure out what it is that causes this. Now, some have said in the past that it's a disease, a mental abnormality that causes this, and every time I hear a theory like this, I try to do what I did above and put myself in that situation. If homosexuality were something like bipolarism or Asperger's, and I were homosexual, I'd want to know. All these people out there silencing everyone who's legitimately curious as to why they are the way they are not getting the answers that they're looking for. If I were gay and went on the internet or to another gay friend and asked them if it was a condition, they would tell me that I was born that way and only say that no matter what questions I asked. Even though there's nothing to base that from, this is the answer I would get. And it'd be the only thing I know. It would end up being the only thing I'd be able to reply with if someone asked me, and it isn't fair for someone who wants to understand. Imagine for a second that it is a mental abnormality. What would be the problem with knowing that? Those out there would have the choice to fix it or stay the way they are, and we would know more about this. But hindering progress because it could hurt your feelings is damaging to you in the long run. Ignorance is bliss, but you could have known about the rock slide and moved out of the way. Who knows what else this could affect? Now, am I saying this is a mental abnormality? Of course not, and I doubt it is. Again, I think the most logical answer is that our species is evolving so as not to overpopulate and overwhelm the earth. But then again, that is just me. The biggest problem is that people are afraid of what they do not understand. I, as a straight male, have no idea what it is to feel passion for another male, and because of this, homosexuality is foreign and strange to me. When your mind is young, the natural way to respond to this is negativity, and though it's not the most efficient way to solve any problem, it's human nature. We have had certain beliefs and ideals brought upon us for many years, and some of us even today are treated hatefully or treat others hatefully for, get this, their sexual preference. Something that doesn't affect them at all, something that neither harms or hinders anything, and yet, we humans are so scummy that we will meddle in a complete stranger's lives and tell them that they are despicable for living their lives differently than ours. Them being gay doesn't affect you. Them being lesbian doesn't affect you, especially if you're already married. All your anger is doing is making your beliefs look foolish, and coming to accept and ignore may prove to be a better option for you. The idea that you screaming at people for living their lives in an opposite way to your own, especially in such a way that it literally has no effect on you at all, is ridiculous. The world is changing, and you aren't going to make one bit of difference acting out of hate. But when it comes to homosexuals, I have to say this as well. Being offended at every small thing is a hindrance to our growth as a whole. Showing disgust to those who don't understand is just as bad as someone seeing you as less of a person for being the way you are. I implore that you try to help them understand. Simply tell them that you don't know why, but you simply are. Let research be done on this so we can understand what it is that makes some people this way. Saying, I was born this way without any evidence is fine, but wouldn't it be better for all of us to understand? I've said it once already. Humans are afraid of what they don't understand. Let's educate ourselves so that we don't have to fear. Regardless as to whether you're gay or straight, we don't have to hate on one another. And regardless as to what causes it, we don't have to worry. And though some may treat you with hostility, there will be others who are genuinely just trying to understand. For everything is person to person.